Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about a tubular lock and a tubular lock pick, how to use them, why they exist, and really easy ways to get past them. A tubular lock is fundamentally a pin tumbler lock where the pin stacks are in a circle rather than a straight line. So with a standard pin tumbler lock, here you can see this one, you can kind of see the pin stacks, right? The spring, the driver pin, pushing down on the key pin. The pin stacks are all in a straight line. Well, the idea was with standard pin lock picking is that you're going to put your tension tool into the lock, you're going to apply tension, you're going to go fishing for the fat pin or the binding pin, push it into the correct position, then go look for the next fattest pin and iterate that process until all the pin stacks are in the correct position and then the lock will open. Perfect. The idea with the tubular lock was that if you put the pin stacks in a circle, it will be harder to pick. Well, at the time, that's true, because no tools existed to bypass it. So at the time, yes, sure. But you can tension the core, and then one of the benefits of this is that you can actually see the pin stacks. So in some instances, for some people, this is actually easier because you can actually see every single individual pin stack, and you don't have to go fishing. So when you're picking a standard pin tumbler lock and you haven't practiced a long time, getting to the right pin stack, the right position with your pick can be tricky, and it takes practice. But with a tubular lock, if you actually have the right tension tool, you can actually just go through and you can even see all the pin stacks, which makes that a little bit easier. But we're not talking about that today. Today we're talking about a tubular lock pick. Now, this one is one from Covert Instruments. It's honestly one of my favorites. It's tiny. It's very well built. They don't break. It's very convenient. So yeah, it's my personal go-to, but really any of these things are going to be useful. The idea of this thing is that it works exactly like any other lock picking equipment, except here, these little feelers are your individual lock picks. So here, the idea is that you're going to pick every pin stack simultaneously. So these are your lock picks. This is your tension tool. The idea is that when you put this into the tubular lock, what's going to happen is that the fattest pins, hopefully, are going to push these feelers down, eventually making the key. And you can even see, the end of the feelers or the lock picks pushing down here. All right, so basically the way that this works is that you're going to use this. You're going to push, this is kind of like your reset. You're going to push this all the way up. You're going to push this flat onto the ground so that now this is flush. Okay, this is kind of your start position. This is your tension tool. Now, with the tension tool, you're going to pick these locks in a reverse order. What you're going to do is you're going to make this extra tight, tighter than you think you need to. Not so tight that you're going to break the tool, right? If you're a strong person, you don't want to just, put a death grip on it. But what you're going to do is you're going to make this a little bit tighter than you need, put it into the lock, push in a little bit, and then jiggle back and forth. And that's really all you're going to do. And then if that doesn't work after, say, 5 to 10 seconds, you're going to release tension just a little bit, about that much, maybe 1/20th of a turn. Put it back in and repeat the process. Now, for any person who's played a Bethesda game, the reason why you do this is because if this represents your lock and this represents your tension, what will happen is that you will start at a specific point. And if you start here, say, as you slowly loosen the tension up, you want these two things to align. That represents the sweet spot where you have the perfect amount of tension, everything is lined up, and your key will be created. If you go past this sweet spot even a little bit, you won't know which of these little guide rods, which of these little feelers, you won't know which one went too far or by how much. So if you overshoot this, then what will happen is you'll just end up continuing to turn tension lower and lower and lower until eventually you have no tension at all, and then you have to reset the entire thing. So it is very important that you go very slow and try to get that sweet spot perfectly, because every single lock that you get, the tension and the sweet spot will be in a different place. You won't know going into it. So to iterate this, it's very simple. So you loosen the tension, you pull this all the way to the top, or somewhat, so the literal lock picks are at the top, almost like a crown. Push it on anything flat to reset it, so that now it looks kind of like this. Put tension on the device, a little bit more than you think you need. This thing in the center here, that's your guide rod. Your tubular lock will have often a hole in it. That's where the guide rod goes. If there is no hole here, you may need to remove the tension or the guide rod. To do that, just undo the tension as much as possible. So something like that. And then just take a pair of tweezers and pull that out. So put tension on the core, take the guide rod and stick it into the lock, marry it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to push in gently. I don't think I have that lined up. There we are. Push it in gently and then rock back and forth. That's really all you're going to do. Now for me, I don't know why I do this, but when I do it, I tend to kind of go back and forth while I kind of push in and push out. If nothing, there we are. And then you'll see that eventually this will work. Let's suppose that that didn't work. If it didn't, what you'll do is you will, now back up for a second. Once you have that functioning, tighten this down immensely as much as you can, because all of these little pins right here are in the correct position. And if you tighten this down enough, you now have a key. You can put this back into the same lock and you can always use it just like a key. Now, if it hadn't have worked, if I pushed this in and I jiggled back and forth for 10, 15 seconds and nothing happened, what I would do next is I would remove tension about that much. So maybe, I don't know, a 20th of a 30th of a turn. And then you'd put it back in and you'd keep going. If you eventually get to the point where there is no tension on this at all, you've gone too far. So reset the whole thing. Put a little too much tension on it, a little bit more than you think you need. Find the guide rod, find the hole for the guide rod, marry them together, and then push in and start gently jiggling back and forth. You're not trying to force this, right? You are just pushing in gently and going back and forth. And if it works, there you go. You now have a key. Great. And then, of course, tighten this down a lot. So now you have a permanent key, or you can go make the key. If you've got a key cutter that can make tubular locks, lock keys, then you can go make the key that way. But that's really all this tool is. So humorously, this tool allows you to pick, I don't know, 8 pin stacks simultaneously faster than most people could do it on a standard pin tumbler lock. So that's really all this is, right? So now where you see these things, obviously vending machines. So if you want to get free soda and such, I'm not advising it, but you know how now. But one of the more benefit places is key boxes. So sometimes you'll find wafer locks or tubular locks as mechanical overrides for key boxes. You will also find them for safes. A lot of electronic safes will have tubular locks as mechanical overrides, which is one thing that you should know is that electronic safes will pretty much always have a mechanical override. The benefit is, or the reason for that, of course, is if you forget the combination, if the batteries die or anything else, you still need a way to get in the safe, right? So usually there's a mechanical override, and often that will come in the form of a tubular lock. So this is functionally how you use this tool. You can buy this many, many different places, but that's really all you need to know about it. Now, the only caveat to this is that in some instances, the lock itself, say you're going into a safe and you're trying to get into a safe, sometimes the gap between where you need the tool to go into and where the actual lock is, like if you cut away part of the safe so that you can get into the mechanical override, maybe it's this long and you need an extra long tool, right? So you might need to adjust your tool or get a different one with a longer head, but that's really just kind of it. So these things are really stupidly easy to use. If you need to get them, you can get them in many places. I like the one from Covert Instruments, but lots of vendors sell them. So go out, have fun, and let me know how it works for you.